Basically, what Grover's doing these days, and has done for a long time, is a long way from the early Jackson Charvel days, technically. The attitude's been the same, but the way of actually achieving the ends has been very different. There was a lot more hit and miss before the advent of CNC machines and computer-controlled lasers and Plex and all the other technology that we have to work with now to make a much better, much more consistent instrument and of really high quality.
We're going to start the program. It's going to basically cut away most of the material at the head. Showtime at the Apollo. A really good operator can do things almost as quickly as a CNC machine. But a human being has good days and bad days. The CNC machine just does the same thing day in and day out the same way. Consistency and quality, tolerancing that you just can't do with manual machinery. It's just amazing how CAD/CAM software and CNC machines have revolutionized this business. I could never make guitars the old way. I couldn't do it. Don't want to do it. This has allowed us to do things that we could only have dreamed about. We fit parts together that are seamless. And that is the end of that particular operation. You're trying to hold essentially metalworking or aerospace type tolerances in a material that won't hold tolerances because wood swells and shrinks with the humidity and the temperature. The idea is that if you have a tolerance in the machining and then you have a tolerance in the material, if you can at least control one of those, you're half the way there. In terms of machining things, we're able to hold tolerances that 20 years ago you couldn't do. It is the most magical era ever.
A Plex machine is a computer-controlled neck analysis and fret grinding machine. It will analyze the state of the neck, the frets, truss rod adjustment, and fix anything that's wrong with it. You end up with perfect instruments, perfect playability, intonation every single time. All our guitars now are plecked, so the fretwork is absolutely impeccable. People that have had their guitars plecked will never go back. It's that good.
This one's very important to me. It's Michael Jackson, and that's Greg Wright. The reason that particular picture is so important to me is when I started making guitars, my parents sort of had written me off. I think my parents thought, oh, well, you know, our son basically didn't finish high school and didn't get a college education. Now he's in California making guitars. And this came out with Greg playing a Charvel guitar, and it was in People magazine. And my mother called me up, and she said, you know, we saw that People magazine thing. And I said, yeah, it's pretty cool. And she said, yeah. You know, she says, we were just talking, we couldn't quite figure out what happened because we thought you were a loser. We just figured that you weren't going to make it, that we'd sort of failed. And now your guitar is in the centerfold of People magazine. And so we just thought, well, maybe we were wrong. Maybe you're going to turn out to be something. Here's a picture of Dave Gilmour with a guitar that I didn't make for Dave. I actually made that guitar for a guy named Bernhard Kurtzke, who had a store in Hamburg, and Dave happened to go into this music store, Music No. 1 in Hamburg, and he played this guitar and he fell in love with it. But Bernhard wouldn't sell it to him because it was his personal guitar. So Phil Taylor, who's worked for Dave forever, called me up and said, can you get that guitar out of Bernhard for Dave? And I called Bernhard and I said, I got to have that guitar back, dog. I got to have that guitar back. And he said, well, you can make me 2 guitars for the one, and I'll give it back to you. I did, and he gave the guitar to Dave, and Phil was very gracious to send me this picture of Dave playing the guitar, autographed by Dave. So I'm pretty proud of that. For the longest time, the famous black Strat had a Charvel neck on it, because that guitar went through many incarnations, but for the longest time it had a neck I made on it, and I was very proud of that as well. Tom Dumont from No Doubt is one of our great friends. That's Tom at a NAMM show press event playing a model that is sort of still in development. That's Zora. In the 90s, I ran Washburn for a few years. I was pretty instrumental in bringing Dimebag Darrell to Washburn. And this is a picture of me and Darrell, who was one of the greatest guys I've ever known. He was absolutely committed to his fans and loved his fans, and they loved him rabidly. So for all of the outrageousness, Dimebag Darrell was a giant in my mind. This craft, this vocation gives me an enormous sense of pride to be able to make these instruments. You have to have a lot of passion to be in this business. Once you're addicted to the guitar business, you're in. You're in for life. This is a wild roller coaster ride. But if you love the guitar, if you love what this thing does, I really don't think it's a choice. It's a calling, and you answer the calling.
We're a small, very hands-on company. There's 6 of us full-time and a few part-timers who augment what we do. We want to make the best guitars we can, make a reasonable living, have some fun, and provide for our workforce.